right, taking a look at the long shots here, Zach. As you look at the guys who really are starting the playoffs, maybe with single-digit playoff points, who do you think has the best chance of advancing?
It's a great question. I think the name that jumps off to me is probably Austin Cindric. I know he's not really one of the guys that we think of as a front runner, especially at it's hard to say, but Atlanta, he runs well. We saw how he was at the front of the field back in February. Watkins Glen, he tends to be a pretty good road course racer. Bristol's the real question mark for me, but I think Cindric is probably best positioned of those guys to make a run and advance.
Dustin, how about you?
You know, I'll tell you what, Cindric was one that kind of came to mind because of he scored more points at the drafting tracks this season than anybody else. And so certainly you look at that, you look at what the Penske drivers have done and being able to lead laps. I guess another name I'd throw out and a long shot per se, if that's what you want to call it, is Joey Logano, just because of his point situation. But Logano has led the most laps at 2 of the 4 drafting tracks this year. Another race, he was second most laps led. So maybe he hasn't always had the results, but he's finding his way up toward the front, putting himself in position a lot of times. If he can do that at Atlanta, and if he wins that, hey, you don't have to worry about Watkins Glen. You don't have to worry about Bristol. And then you've got Talladega in the second round. If you can do that again, you know, you look at for Team Penske. I mean, I think you look at every track, but certainly I think for Team Penske, Atlanta and Talladega are opportunities, and whereas I think some other people look at it as hope fors or something and just hope they can get through it. And obviously that's the case for Team Penske, but I think you look at when you look at them for how strong they've been, how they've led laps, and put themselves in good positions. That with those races early on, I think it presents an opportunity. Logano has not run well. I think, 7 finishes in the last 11 races. He's placed 19th or worse. So he does not come into the playoffs with much momentum, but one race can certainly change that. And look, if you want to go with numbers, every even number year since this current format, he has been in the championship round. He's never made the championship round in an odd number year. So maybe that's, I think he needs a little bit of everything right now because they have not been as strong. But I think between the two of us, we're looking at the Team Penske guys at this point.
And not for nothing, Logano was one ill-timed Austin Dillon bump away from a potential win at Richmond as well, which would have been another 5 playoff points right there.
Yeah, looking at the guys at the kind of the bottom of the line, you think about Suarez winning the first race at Atlanta this year. That's been a long time ago, and he kind of, he barely made the top 15 in points in the regular season. He's got 1 stage win. Bowman has none. Briscoe has none. Harrison Burton has none. He was still outside the top 30 in points at the end of the regular season.
He was outside the top 33.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, and then you got no wins for Truex, no wins for Ty Gibbs. How do you expect fans to look at these guys with any kind of serious nature as contenders, Dustin, when they haven't shown that all year long?
Well, I mean, here's the beauty of it is you look at the points and you go from 8th to 16th, and that's 4 points between those positions. Okay, some of those guys there are going to finish 20th, 25th. There's some of those guys are going to get collected most likely in a wreck at Atlanta or have some sort of issue. So if you just get through that, and even if you don't win and you can get a top 10, now you leapfrog some of those guys. And then the pressure builds on those guys. Can they, what happens if they don't have a good Watkins Glen race? And now it's about, they talk about, using baseball terms, hitting base hits in this round. So you just, don't have the big mistake that's going to cost you 15, 20 points because that's might be what cost you the opportunity to advance the round. So look, anybody, like Martin Truex Jr., yeah, what is it, 9 finishes of 24th or worse in the last 12 races. Okay, there's no reason in the world to pick him, right? Hey, I would not take him off the board because he's with Joe Gibbs Racing. They've got a fast team. They haven't been able to put it together at all the times. But all they have to do is do it here for the next few weeks and they advance. Or, if they pull out that first victory of the season, get that first win for him in his final season, he's on to the next round. So I look at a guy like Truex. I look at the start of the year. I think everybody thought, 10 races in or so, Ty Gibbs was going to win a race, hadn't done it yet. Hey, maybe he's saving it for the playoffs. Wouldn't that be a great time to do it? So, look, just because they're at the bottom, I'm not discounting anybody. I mean, look, Harrison Burton, it's easy to discount him and the Wood brothers because they just have not run well. But if you get a situation in Atlanta where, I don't know, 6 to 8 of the playoff guys don't finish the race and Harrison gets through the accidents and look, he's finished 11th or better in his last 3 drafting track races. If he scores something like that, boom, he leapfrogs a lot of people. Now, can they continue that? And look, you only have to beat 4 people to advance. That's all you're racing is trying to beat 4 people. And if you can do that and get some help, then boom, you're into the next round. And hey, anything can happen.
It's 4 guys in three weeks. You've got 3 weeks to outrun the rest of your competition. If you stay clean throughout this round, you give yourself a chance. You give yourself a chance. We've seen anything can happen at Atlanta. We had a 3-wide finish there where the third place guy was 7/1000ths of a second short of advancing. Then you go to Watkins Glen. Really, anything can happen there. I know it was pretty much our most straightforward race of the season last year. I think there was only the one caution, which was for Chase Elliott running out of fuel in the backstretch chicane, really. But if you put yourself in position, anything can happen at that race. Bristol is Bristol. It's very easy. We saw it last year. Someone can get turned around, collected, and all of a sudden there's a big wreck, and you've got 4 playoff guys out of it. If you're not one of them, suddenly you're in a great position to advance, especially with as tight as the back of this playoff grid is. It sets up for opportunities for a lot of these guys, like a Burton, like a Bowman, like a Suarez, who are not the favorites to advance. All of a sudden, you've got a chance to advance if you're one of those guys, if you just keep your nose clean, which is, of course, a lot easier said than done.
And I mean, what Zach's saying, here's why this round is the scariest round for all these guys is, okay, Atlanta, super speedway type of racing, so you can get caught up in it, number of wrecks, in the spring race. Also think about this, the extended pit road where you got to enter pit road. You have pit road speed beginning in turn 3. It's easy to get caught for speeding. That happens at the wrong time. You've lost 2 laps potentially under green. So you have that. Then you go to Watkins Glen where there's a new tire, and now people are talking about a 3 to 4 second drop off, in a very short amount of time. So now that is going to put potentially strategy in play. So will you get into a position where you can flip the stages like you have in the past? Maybe still can do that, but there's still going to be a lot of pressure to pit often there. So now it's going to be on managing tires and your pit crew and things like that. And then Bristol, by the way, it's the same tires they ran in the spring. Now, everybody understands that, so they will be able to run more than 35 laps without having an issue at Bristol. That was the thing that caught everybody off guard at Bristol, was they just were not expecting it. So everybody ran a certain way. And once they started dialing it back, it got a little bit better, but there were a lot of challenges. But now everybody feels like that tire's still going to be good. So now you have to manage tires. And again, that's what drivers want. They want to be able to not just have their foot on the accelerator all the way, but just adjust that accelerator. So there are a lot of obstacles in the way. And then you've got such a tight points race. And look, even somebody like William Byron, who's 4th in the points and 18 points ahead of Martin Truex Jr. and Ty Gibbs. Hey, one bad race for William Byron, he's back in it, back in the back and, fighting potentially for his playoff life. And here's a guy who won, 3 of the first 10 races or so. And beginning of the year, you would have said, okay, there's the championship. There's the champion right there.